we're talking about today on Objective Deconstruction, Mr. Nice Guy, Afro-Agnostics. We're going to be talking about deconstructing the myth of the Democratic Plantation. And it's really not about Democrats. It's really not about Republicans. It's actually about both of them. But we're going to address this. So first, let me get this this overlay off the screen for you. There we go. There you are, Mr. Afro-Agnostics, and you are muted. So just feel free to take yourself, your mic, add yourself back. There you go. You're still muted. I think you double clicked on it. Try it again. There you go.
My mic sound nice.
Check one. That's what's up. So I wanted to start this off with this show to straight up. First of all, fuck Republicans, fuck Democrats. We ain't neither, okay? So we're just gonna be dealing with this whole plantation concept. Because what happens is when people from the other side that are not MAGA, that basically make arguments for MAGA talking points, you go, oh, so you're MAGA. They go, oh no, we're not MAGA. I never said I was MAGA, but these are the talking points. So if I basically make an argument that lines up with Democratic positions, all of a sudden that makes me a Democrat. And I'm just telling you, I'm either a Democrat or I'm not a Democrat. Neither of us are either. Now, for this last election, I've been independent all up until this last election. I checked Democrat to make sure that I had something to say about the primary, because in California, it's going to be a Democrat no matter what. But I wanted to make sure that I had something to say about that whole gerrymandering thing. So I will strategically do whatever is in my best interest. But it's only that. I vote my interest. I don't give a damn about either of these parties, and none of that is really where this is coming from. Do you agree? Is that your same position, Afro-Agnostic?
That's my same position. My disclaimer, I've been a part of having, prior to maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I was a part of the Malcolm X grassroots movement. We don't even participate in the electoral politics. We don't believe in electoral politics, but individually, I did. I did vote for Kamala, not because I believe in Kamala or she's a functionary of the Democratic Party, but I thought she was the best option to slow down the wheels of fascism. You know, so that's why I voted. And I did not even vote for. A lot of people who are Black MAGA voted for Obama. I did not vote for Obama. I voted for Dennis Kucinich. And so you're correct. You're very much correct. I'm not down with the Democrats or the Republicans.
And to be clear, I'm in California. You're in
Georgia.
Yeah, so you know, and you've been all over the place, so that will affect the dynamics of our votes, because you know they tell you that each vote counts equal. That's just not the truth, because of the whole electoral process. Some votes skew over beyond one, and some skew under beyond one, and that's what happens in California. Our votes are definitely diminished by this dumb electoral process. But again, that's really not the issue of this show. The issue of this show is we're talking about is Democratic Plantation. Now, you brought up this term. What does this term mean to you for the Afro-Agnostics?
Yeah, so one, I just want to, I believe that is a myth. It's a mythology. And I think I'm trying to, my problem with the term is the origin of it. If you simply do a Google search, we just jump to the origin. My bad.
Well, you said origin, so I went there. It's the same thing, yeah.
You'll see that it's a conservative metaphor. It comes from people like Thomas Sowell and other conservatives. They coined the term. So there's political bias already embedded in the term, because it's targeting one particular party and attaching imagery of slavery to that party. And I think that that's emotionally triggering for some Black people. And a lot of times Black people use it, or a lot of Black folks who are conservatives who listen to social media pundits that come from the conservative spectrum.
Or hoteps.
Huh?
Or hoteps.
Yeah. And I think there was a legitimate criticism of the because I'm an old school hotel. So I'm a hotel back when wasn't a pejorative term. I was a hotel. I was the brother that hotel. And we had legitimate criticisms of the Democratic Party, but we had even more criticisms of the Republican Party. But this new thing is like they have all these criticisms of the Democratic Party, referring to it as a plantation, as if the Republican somehow is plantation free or something. That's the troubling part of it that I don't understand. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's really it. I got friends that, Facebook friends that they say, oh, I don't care about Democrats or Republicans. They're the same thing. But every post that you got is about the Democrats. No post about the Republicans. And I'm just saying that, look, if all your posts, all your negative posts about one party, you're basically supporting the other party. You're de facto arguing for the other party. You know what I'm saying? If that criticism goes across the board, then that's just your objective criticism outside the party. But I'm just saying that these people champion it, and they just like everything that they do is terrible. And I go, no, terrible things are terrible. I don't care if you're Hitler. If Hitler does something good, that deed is good. He's still a bad person, but that deed is good. And all I care about is good. All I care about that which works in my personal interests, the interests of people like me, the interests of people in general. You know what I'm saying? I care about everybody. At the end of the day, I want everybody to have the fundamentals. I don't care if you KKK, I don't care whatever. I want everybody to eat, you have a house, you know what I'm saying? Just the fundamental type of stuff. You need to work for the other stuff, but at the end of the day, I still want you to get right. That's just not an excuse to be what you need to be. You still need to get right. It's not okay to be a hateful monster or any of that stuff. So, I got a problem that people that say, oh, I'm not one of these, but I only got complaint from one side of the spectrum. That's BS. You're one of those.
That plantation, that imagery, it's like, it's so obviously biased because it's like this is the plantation party, and it's just a bad metaphor. And just for the record, I would accept that analogy, but why would the Republican Party not be a plantation? That's my problem with it. And just for the record, all the plantations were not equal. You had the large scale plantations, and if you ever read the slave narrative, those were the worst. Those were the worst. If you read some of the slave narratives, all slave masters, all plantations were not the same. The small scale family plantations were, I hate to say it, but the slaves said it themselves as they wrote. They were better. Frederick Douglass talks about this one plantation where this overseer named, I think they called him the Snake, because he would crawl on his belly to spy. He was looking for a reason just to beat niggas and to torture people and stuff like that. So all plantations are not the same. So if you want to call one political party a plantation, you also have to call the other political party a plantation. Now, which plantation is the best plantation? What plantation is more adjacent to freedom and which is not? And I think that's the bigger question that we need to investigate and look at if we want to take that plantation metaphor.
And one thing that sort of like feeds that narrative that sets that off is they'll say that the Republicans are the party that freed the slave. The Republicans are the party of Abraham Lincoln. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna talk about later why that logic doesn't hold up as related to Republicans nowadays and Democrats nowadays, but that's part of the whole imagery. So you're talking about it's a pejorative term as far as being, the plantation, but then they're reminding you that, look, these are the people that kept you on the plantation. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And that's all politics. That's because, again, there was something that happened, and you got to look at where they're at now. Well, it's not. Some people say it's not where you're from; it's where you're at. We'll get there. So.
Or Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a really serious, when you kind of cut off any opportunity or discussion to have serious political analysis about the parties when you call one a plantation. It's just, it's not a serious analysis. It's just Republican propaganda, conservative propaganda and sloganizing, pretty much.
Okay.
But and let's touch on that really quick. We can come back to it on a greater detail. But why were Black people, majority of Black people were Republicans at one time? You talk to some of these people, and what do they say as far as like why Black people were Republicans at one time, the majority of Black people?
Well, and originally it was clearly because it was, these were the values that were anti. I mean, when you talk about the abolitionists, the basically Lincoln the party, the party that was moving away, the party that was anti-conservative as far as keeping status quo. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, they were that. They were basically the countermeasure to basically let's just keep the slavery thing just how it is. You know what I'm saying? We got a good thing going right now. Let's keep it going just how it is. Republicans were originally sort of like the party that were upsetting that. So there's no question that's why Black people gravitated to that. And it was the right thing to gravitate to.
Absolutely.
At that time.
Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, you can just look legislatively, and we'll look at more details later. The 13th Amendment ended slavery. 14th Amendment, they say gave us citizenship. I would say coerced citizenship. But, we value. And then the 15th Amendment, the voting right. That's what won Black people over. And of course, the party had some anti-abolitionists in it. I mean, or abolitionists, not anti-abolitionists in it. And there were radical abolitionists, there were moderate abolitionists, and there were people in the Republican Party who did not believe in abolition. But the fact that I remember we were just having a discussion about Houston. Houston being considered a young team, right? And the Lakers being considered maybe a veteran team or something like that. It's not saying that everyone on the Houston Rockets is young, but the majority are young, so they get labeled a young team. So the majority of Republicans were, a good significant number were abolitionists, and those 3 amendments that they passed is what won Black people over. Now, if you look in the 20th century, you see another 3 pieces of legislation passed by the other party, the Civil Rights Act of 64, the Voting Rights Act of 65, and the Housing Act of 68. Same thing, that won Black people over. So, I can imagine somebody in the 19th century said, man, you on the Republican plantation. Fool, what are the Democrats doing? And right now, it's like, what are the Republicans doing? How are they linked to these great civil rights legislations? They're not. But anyway,
just think about it. Who right now, which is the party that's trying to undermine a lot of the strides that have been made from the Civil Rights Act? You know what I'm saying? Who's the party that's saying that it was the mistake in the first place? Who's the party that's saying that we don't want critical race theory in the school? We don't want teaching anything in the school that explains why Black people are in their position right now, and anything that could possibly pass on guilt or accountability to white people. So, we don't want that in the schools anywhere. Who's the ones that's talking about DEI saying that, we don't want anything that work is in a sense of reparations to repair, the generational wealth that was taken from us when destroying things like Black Wall Street and every other, just generations of slavery, you know what I'm saying, that didn't give people the opportunity to own lands. I mean, you're talking about red districting and all this other stuff. I mean, it's just so many things that have been done. Redlining. Yeah, everything that's been done from slavery to post-slavery that's been basically interfering with Black people having sort of like the generational momentum that white people have been afforded from the very beginning. So, again, that is the Republican Party that's banging the table on that, whereas the Democratic Party, I don't care whether they're sincere or not, they're the ones that are basically arguing and basically trying to appeal to that. You know what I'm saying? They're actually introducing legislator policy, you know what I'm saying? Things that actually do those type of things. So it's really about, like you said, what have you done for me lately? Basically, what are you saying right now? What you're saying right now is, just to throw this out here, we were just talking about this on the Focus Up show. You're talking about the SPLC, which is an organization that's done great things for exposing hate groups in this country. And when the government actually got serious about doing
advancing civil rights.
And advancing civil rights. Yes, exactly. So you're talking about an organization that was working hand in hand with the government to expose these hate groups, to infiltrate them. Of course, part of infiltration means that you're going to have to pay informants. This is what we do in criminal situations, gangs, mafia, whatever. I mean, informants usually don't just do it for funsies. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you do it a little bit for, maybe trying to escape some type of punishment for yourself. But the people that are not even exposed, they're just giving you this information, they must be compensated, and they are. This is a regular, simple thing. But now, the Republican regime right now is trying to tell you that this organization is funding hate groups just so they'll have something to complain about, that they're fabricating, that they're creating. Hate groups exist because they're financing them, and they're propping up these fake issues, not the actual racists, not the actual KKKs, not the actual organizations that do these things, but basically people that toss them a few dollars.
And mind you, this is not a corporate entity or a foundation. The SPLC is a 501c3. It's a nonprofit. It's not, what I'm saying? They don't make, that type of, they're not that type of interest, financial interest, where they're influencing the political direction of the country. They're not doing that,
Just think how crazy that it is. You're saying that Black people are creating boogeymen so they have something to complain about. Which is an insult to Black people to imply that we don't really have real problems, real impacting problems that affect us particularly distinctively.
And for the record, the state of Alabama, I just thought about it, my bad. The state of Alabama actually went after MLK back in the day, in the 50s, with the success of the Montgomery bus boycott. They went after that organization, accusations of corruption, financial misuse, and all of that. Martin King had to actually go to court, and by splitting hair, he didn't. He was not found guilty, and he wasn't convicted. But this is a typical strategy that political people in opposition, especially civil rights organizations, they do. They go after them. Accusations of corruption and all the fraud and all of this stuff. And almost every example from this administration of corruption, every example of fraud is always, it's just like Black, some women, some civil rights, some immigrants, some LGBTQ.
We're all the problem. We're all the problem, but not white males. The richest white people in the world, the billionaires, they get all the breaks, but they're never the problem. You know what I'm saying? So the bottom line is,
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, the solution is just throw them even more money and things will even get better.
But one thing I wanted to, on the Democratic Plantation thing, though, is that it suggests in and of itself, when you use that, and Black folks, let's stop using that again. This is conservative Republican. The person who coined it, the earliest usage, are registered Republicans, hardcore conservatives like Thomas Sowell. It's focusing on the political behavior of Black people, and it's trying to suggest that Black people are irrational. We make irrational decisions. We're blind. We have some type of blind loyalty. Notice no other group is seeing their political behavior seen that way. Only us. Like what about the white conservatives who left the Democratic Party when the Democratic Party adopted the civil rights legislation in 1964? They left and went to the Republican Party. Why is that?
Really happened?
Yeah,
this really happened.
Okay, let's talk about it. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. How do they say that it didn't happen? How do you explain the prior to 1964, the Louisiana, the Deep South states, Louisiana, Georgia, the Carolinas, Mississippi, Alabama, they were blue. That's indisputable. They were blue. You agree, right? I mean, we all agree.
It's not. See, that's the thing about it. This strategy is just basically, in law, they have a concept. They always say that, look, when the facts are on your side, you pound the facts. When the facts are not on your side, you pound the table. And this is a bunch of table pounding. They don't want you to actually fact check this and look this up. They just want to brush it off because it just sounds so good to say that the Republicans were the party that freed Black people and the Democrats are plantation. And it's just this imagery and you know what I'm saying that basically wants to sell you on this, but it's like it's not. It does not take a deep dive to figure out what happened. Literally, when they did the civil rights stuff, this pissed the South off, and they were just like, "Well, F the Democrats. They did all of this stuff, whatever. We're no longer Democrats. We're Republicans now." And that's basically how it played out. And the fact that these countries literally changed colors. They literally changed colors politically. Literally, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's just that's what happened. It's not fake. It's very real. So that's why. Look, I don't care about none of that. I don't care about what you used to be. Again, you say Democrat, that doesn't sell me. What sells me is policy. If you're telling me that you believe in efficient energy, energy that's going to be, more productive from us, less problematic for us, you know what I'm saying? It's going to make us stronger. I'm going to be for that. You know what I'm saying? So I respect clean energy. You see what China's doing. We're always talking about compete with China. China is not holding themselves back as far as wind technology, as far as solar technology and fossil fuels. They're pursuing it all. But for some reason, Trump is paid billions just to stop the wind industry, not just to like say, oh, okay, I don't believe in that. Let's focus here. He's like, look, you guys got this, whatever. Here goes money. I'm gonna pour money into just to basically stop this, because I was talking all this stuff about fossil fuels, ignoring the fact that Biden was going crazy with fossil fuels. There was no, you know what I'm saying? We produced more fossil fuels under Biden than we had previously. So it wasn't an issue that fossil fuels weren't being done. It was just pursuing everything, the whole gambit. That's what China's doing. And that's one of the reasons why China's going to be winning, because, you're limiting yourself just for the sake of some politics, because you wanted to say, dig, baby, dig.
And I want to get to that 64 election. But because that was when the Southern alignment happened. But before I do, one of the most important things, when I was in MHGM, one of the most important, I guess, like historical things that you have to really look at, because it really impacts everything that came after it in terms of just its political impact, but also in terms of language and so forth, is the motherfucking French Revolution. Okay. And it's just a very important watershed in human history. But just to sum it up in a little quick sound bites, the tennis court assemblies, where you had the first estate, the second estate, the third estate, and they met. The people who were to the left of the king, they were the liberals. And the people who were on the right of the king, they were the conservatives. They wanted the traditional monarchy. Other folks, they were, constitutional monarchies, and they wanted some change. So that became the political language from that point on, people on the left and people on the right. I bring that up to say that it's not really about the parties. Parties are like the house. It's what political forces exist in the parties. In the during this, leading up in the 1850s to the Civil War, the Republican Party had white majority there was liberal. The Democratic Party was conservative. Right now, the Democratic Party is liberal and the Republican Party is conservative. So it's not really about the parties. Black people are definitely not conservatives, because conservatives means keep shit the same.
Yeah.
Black people always they're looking for a change. So Black people as a group, that is one of the reasons why there's so much political solidarity in terms of the Black vote, because Black people are clear. We might be conservatives with a small lowercase c in terms of some of the values that we have, but politically, we're not a uppercase C conservatives. We want change. We want to see differences, because we understand, what that means for us to not have them.
Yeah, the system isn't working for us the same.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, exactly. So we vote our interests.
When Barry Goldwater ran in '64, though, he lost, because I remember this in reading this in Political Science 101. He lost, but what they discovered is like, goddamn, he got the majority in the southern states. So that became, like, years later, like, the Republican Party can absorb this group because this group is dissatisfied with the Civil Rights Act of 64. And that is the cleavage that drove the realignment. It was civil rights. You know, think about the Civil War. 600 to 700,000 motherfucking people dead, dying. What drove that? Us. You know what I'm saying? Like our political status, our place in society, what would that be? That drove the war. And it's the same thing that happened with the Southern alignment. I don't know how you can dispute that. They act like that's a myth. And then what about the political behavior of the KKK, of the white liberals that left the Republican Party?
Where do they all vote? Yeah, where do they all vote now? Where do they all vote now?
Yeah. And it's like a lot of people changed, and there was a realignment that happened. So I don't know why that's so unbelievable. I don't get it.
Well, again, I don't. To me, they're being non-serious or disingenuine. I mean, the bottom line is these are not stupid people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we got dumb people in the world, but largely this is not the problem of stupidness as much as the problem of insincerity. Of just not being serious enough.
I think the people who coined the term, the metaphor, the thinkers, the theoreticians, they're smart, but a lot of the people who are like, what's homeboy that was just on the show with Amber Rose, Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon and the Yays, and them parroting this information.
Rich dude who comes from a rich family, by the way. He ain't just some dude that just walked into richness. His whole environment has been one of privilege. So I'm just saying that his circumstances are widely different from the common person of color.
Yeah. But I'm just saying in terms of, I think they're just really misinformed and disinformed. I think. What do you think?
Yeah, because they don't live in the world that we live in. Like I was thinking about Janet Jackson the other day. Janet Jackson, she could just kind of stick her toe in the community and be like, "Oh, I heard that Kamala is not even really a black person." Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That you just feed into the narrative that they put out. You don't think about the repercussions of that type of stuff, because at the end of the day, when people talk about Tucker Carlson, they go, "I was wrong about Trump. I'm sorry." Look, that don't mean shit to me to say I'm sorry unless you're saying that I voted for the wrong person. You can't just be like, well, I should have voted for somebody other than Trump. Wasn't nobody other than Trump that was going to beat him, but the Kamala. Those were the two options right there. So my point is that if Trump is burning this whole thing down, it's because of that. And if you're not coming to terms with that, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, you can't just throw these little comments out there and then, because when you're rich, even the bad, terrible things that he's doing to society, these things don't necessarily touch you as much. Now, when he start messing with the stocks, I understand that's really going to touch rich people and stuff like that. But for the most part, they're not really dealing with the real damage that politicians do. So, it allows them to be aloof. But again, we deal with real repercussions. I remember there's this dude that wrote an essay on, something, the death of rap or something like that. And he was talking about how, all these rappers, all this culture, all this blah, 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 killing all this stuff like that and all these things. I say, what's really bad about this is you got a lot of rich people that are shaking the cage up with the stuff that they do, but they get to walk away from the cage. Yeah. We're still living in there. We deal with the actual repercussions of the things that they're doing. So, it's a bigger problem than just, this cultural thing. I mean, us that are basically in the cage, we are going to feel it differently. So when you have people like Nick Cannon, Janet Jackson making their cute little comments, and then, these things facilitate, the lack of participation, because that's what happened this last election. It wasn't because the other election was a fraud. A lot of people were just basically blah, and just took their ball and went home. They were so upset with how things were and forgot about how bad things were before. The reason why you even had that regime in, that you basically just decided to just not even participate. And by not participating, you participating. And what we have now is what we have now.
There are really political consequences to not participating, just like there are political consequences you can't get out of it. There are political consequences to your action or inaction.
Yeah. Sticking your head in the sand only works for ostriches, not for us.
Yeah.
You know?
So then also I want to mention that you can bring up the I gotta my bad. If you can bring up that picture
It's
of
the
the
Republicans.
you can bring up the picture with the Asian person with that data thing really quick.
Here,
And I just want to say,
and
and then another piece of evidence to support the Southern strategy that I forgot to mention is that the Democratic Party has never had a white majority in the presidential election since '64. Since they lost the white majority when they decided to support civil rights. So because that split that occurred. But you talked about the parties today. Like, just look at the Congress, the demographics that you see in the people who are Democrats in the Congress, and the demographics of the Republicans in the Congress. So, I mean, if you look here in terms of women, Democrats, 112 women, Republicans, 43 women. Racial minorities in Congress from each party. In the Democratic Party, 126, and the Republican, 23. Religious minorities in the Congress, 65 on the Democratic side and 5 on the Republican side. I mean, what does that say to you just in terms of just mere representation, employment? Who's employing, most women and minorities? Just look at the numbers. What does that say to you, nice guy?
I mean, it really says that, look, again, this is always about having a seat at the table. We have our perspectives. I get it. But you know what? We're all in this together. And we can't just monopolize it with just folks that look like us or sound like us or pee the same way that we do. At the end of the day, this is a dramatic difference of a diversity of perspective, of diversity of input, of diversity of say. I mean, it basically shows you that what does the GOP stand for? The good old party?
The grand old party.
The grand old party. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, they're just basically it's the fellas.
The good old boys.
Yeah, it's they want to have their little man's club, you know what I'm saying, where they decide, the fate of the world. And again, it's really not about, if you had like righteous people with total perfect perspective, maybe it wouldn't matter so much. You know what I'm saying? It'll matter because there'll just be diversity and difference. But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, you're not getting it with these clowns, because the bottom line is they feel like they can do whatever. I mean, you talk about the Epstein stuff. The Republicans were banging the table about this. All they were talking about was the Democrats and release the Epstein, Trump was, I'm going to release the Epstein files. And then he gets in there and then he's like, yeah, it's a Democratic hoax. Yeah. Or it's going to hurt my friends. You know what I'm saying? It's just like that. That's the reality. So look, one party is making it a part to include the other party. They were so upset. They were so upset about DEI. And they were talking about meritocracy, but Trump is steadily firing people because he's incompetent at hiring people.
So, and they want to create that more homogeneity, that, they want everyone to be, they don't want heterogeneity. They don't want a diverse inclusiveness. I mean, just look, which party has more Black members? Which party has more Latino members? Which party has more women? It's the Democrats. So why would that party be a plantation? You know what I'm saying? And the other party, well, not even, you can Google Democratic plantation. A lot of conservative stuff will come up, and also criticism of it from the other side. But if you Google Republican plantation, it doesn't even come up. But yet we see that this party is mostly just white men, but that's not the. I'm done.
And you know that a lot of it is like counterculture. Like, for example, I'm in Los Angeles right now. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And it's about the Lakers. It's been about the Lakers for like forever here. You know what I'm saying? There was a time when the Clippers were like the little homie, and we had respect for them, and we liked them, and we were like, yeah, you guys go too. But at one point, the Lakers weren't doing so bad. The Clippers started doing real good. They started talking shit. Yeah. Once they started talking shit, we was like, fuck the Clippers. So you gotta understand, when you in Los Angeles Lakers, there's two type of people. Mm-hmm. There's people that that respect basketball and give a shit about people, and then there's people that just counterculture.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's the Clipper fans. If you're a Clipper fan, unless you were raised that because your father was or your parents was a Clipper, and trust me, when they started it, it was about counterculture. It was about being no to that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what a lot of the hoteps are doing. When they're sitting there attacking all these democratic concepts and stuff, they just basically want to it's just I'm different. I'm not on the I'm seeing with a free mind. You guys are the ones that are whatever, you know what I'm saying? So it's like really like a counterculture thing. But you know, it's not looking at the thing.
And that's a frequent tactic that I noticed.
Clippers are a clown organization. Go ahead.
Huh?
The Clippers are a clown organization.
Ooh,
that's a fact. So I'm just saying it. You know,
it's LA bias.
Yeah, it's a fact. It's not LA bice. It's an LA fact. One's got a whole bunch of banners. One's got a whole bunch of selfies. You know what I'm saying? One signed their star, the shining star, the face of their franchise. The free agency. Come on, you come here. We're gonna give you the money. We're gonna build around you. In a few months, they banned them to Detroit, Liberia.
Well, so hold on. When did the Clippers emerge, though? Just on that, because it seemed like they came out of nowhere. I wasn't really aware of them back in the 80s. Were they around in the 80s?
The Clippers, yeah, they were. Well, the Clippers actually started from Boston. Well, they didn't start from them, but it kind of did, because what happened was the owner of Boston, they had the Celtics. He wanted to take the Celtics and move them to LA for good weather and stuff like that, you know, California. And the Boston and California was like, oh, we'll move to Boston, you know, whatever. Let's do that. And you know, but the Celtics were established, you know, great franchise with championships and the fans there. And then they were like, you can't do that to the fans and take that, you know, what you guys can do is swap ownership. You know what I'm saying? But you can't take this franchise to that franchise. So literally the people that ran the Celtics went over to the Clippers, and the people that ran the Clippers came over to the Celtics. So that's why shout out to my homeboy Michael Day, who says the Clippers actually have some championships. He's claiming the Boston Celtics champions from prior to this. There was like a sudden switch. But like, no.
And the Lakers themselves come from Minnesota, right?
But that actual franchise came here. They didn't just sell the name or swap out the name or any stuff like that. So, you know, and the NBA strictly said, no, the Celtics are the team that's here and the Clippers are the team that's over there. You know, I think they weren't called the Clippers. I think they were like the Bullets or something. They ultimately, because they came from San Diego and then they came to Los Angeles, I think. But bottom line is the team that became the Clippers, that was, you know, the owners, all the people that ran the Celtics, who ran it very well, swapped out because basically they just wanted to be in different weather. That's what rich people could do. They could just literally say, fuck all you fans, we're going to take this team and bounce to this other because I just like the weather over there. You know what I'm saying? And the NBA stepped in and said, no, you cannot take that franchise over there, but you guys can swap ownership and we're okay with that. So we got a little bit derailed, but that was just an example of my point is that some people just need something to complain about. And that's what a lot of the hoteps today are doing when they're talking about the Democrats.
And you brought up that need to be different. I see that in a lot of Black MAGA folks. And these I think largely a lot of people who want to be seen as smart. You know, they may not have the accolades in terms of actually dedicating themselves to being smarter or being more critical. But they
only dumb people care about the appearance of smart. Smart people don't care about the appearance of
smart. True. and if you're smart enough, you know that there are a bunch of people much smarter than you, and you're really just a small fish in a bigger pond.
It takes smarts to understand how smart you are, and that's what we talk about with the Dunning-Kruger. Go ahead and look that up. Dunning-Kruger effect. So yes.
So when it comes to policy metrics, like I don't know if you can bring up one of the, I think was it the civil rights safety net and what matters to the Black community? Yeah. So like voting rights, you can clearly see the difference. Republicans.
That one. It was this one.
It was that one.
There we go.
So you know the voter ID laws and election restrictions, that's coming from the Republican side. Democrats tend to want to expand those things. Civil rights enforcement. I mean, clearly they're taking away DEI. They're going after civil rights organizations. These things tend to be more supported by Democrats than Republicans. I mean, you can stop me when I'm lying, when it comes to Medicaid expansion, you know what I'm saying, labor unions, anti-discrimination laws, criminal justice reforms. The Democrats don't do enough, but they do more than the Republicans. I mean, they're not equal in that regard. So why do they persist with this notion that Black people are irrational for choosing a political party that does these things more than another political party? That's just completely insane to me.
I mean, it keeps coming back to saying that they tossed it a bone just to to hook, line, and sinker you to a whole nother problem, because that's what they do. They're basically saying that it's like getting a dog to take a medicine. You're wrapping into like a piece of meat or something like that. So they're just basically wrapping these policies in a piece of meat, but with that piece of meat is your greater oppression. That's the argument. It's bullshit, but that's the argument. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, we can challenge that argument now. If you go to the data doesn't lie, that means so I mean the big thing, the big three, we can call it the big three things that matter: employment to Black people, Black community, employment, poverty, and the income gap. So we see that under Democratic presidents and the Democratic Congress, unemployment goes down, poverty goes down, the income gap goes down. And we see just the opposite when there is a Republican president and Republican Congress. So to me, like, you can call it a bone, but the fact that poverty used to be 50%, the poverty rate for Black people, and now it's 30%.
And this chart doesn't go further, but the trend continued. I want to remind you, point out to 50-1. 50-1.
Break that down again. I forgot. Yeah.
So because Bill Clinton pointed this out. He goes, "Look, this is why, when Kamala was running." Okay, mm-hmm. So when he's sitting there going, he goes, "It's amazing. I had to research to make sure this is right." But he said, "But job production, Democratic presidents versus Republican presidents since I don't know if it was since Ronald Reagan or whatever." He said the Democrats produced more jobs 50-1. Think about that. 50-1. That is absolutely insane and ridiculous, but it's not surprising because, we talked about it. During my lifetime, the first president that I recall being a president with my consciousness as a child or something like it was Jimmy Carter. Before that, I didn't know anything. I was too young to know or give a damn about what a president is. So as far as I was concerned, that's when presidents started, for personal experience. And I'm just saying that ever since then, you've seen the trend where basically the Republicans, when the Democrats are there to kind of correct the problem, and then when things go great, everybody believes that the Republicans are going to be great economically. And in a sense, it kind of is in the beginning. It's like fool's gold, and then everything crashes, and you end up in a sort of like a recession. Then the Democrat fixes it. Same thing. It's wash and repeat. It's always the Democrats digging out of the economic crisis that the Republican policies create, because basically just throwing the money at a whole bunch of billionaires and kind of saying F you to the rest of the people, it's not good economic policy. Who knew? I mean, I should know, but I'm just saying that's just how that works. At the end of the day, you really have to invest in the middle class and the what's the class underneath? I don't want to say negative. I want to say poor class.
The working class. So we as communists, we say the proletariat.
Yeah, the communists. So yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, that's the bulk of the people. Billionaires, spoiler alert, billionaires are doing pretty fine. You know what I'm saying? So that's the problem. So
that's a really concern for Black people, because whereas with, say, white people and other groups, they have a relatively large middle class, but Black people have a relatively small middle class and a disproportionately large working class. So these measures, these policies that are in the interest of the working class that are championed mostly by Democrats are in the best interest for Black people. Do they do enough? No. Are they watered down and diluted? Yes. But it's insane to, strategically, it's insane to not, to
not see the water is wet. The bottom line is, the sky is blue. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, the Democrats are not doing enough. The Democrats have failed Black people. I mean, they failed Black people with numerous of policies. You know, we talk about the what was it? Just the policies that ended up incarcerating a whole bunch of Black people. But again, this was a policy that a lot of Black people championed, because this is another spoiler alert, because white people seem to think that Black people love criminals and crime and stuff like that. We don't. So when they were talking about all this heavy-handedness, you know, especially against the crack epidemic and all of this stuff, the Black community supported it, because again, that crap was hurting us. We are not friends of gangsters and criminals and stuff like that at large. You know what I'm saying? I understand there's a lot of people that participate. It's a minority of people that participate and run those things. The majority are victims that don't care about that crap. You know what I'm saying? That want a heavy hand. But what happened was the people that were selling crack were getting marijuana, were getting a super heavy hand. People selling cocaine, which is like even worse, weren't getting no type of it. So again, it ultimately failed you. But again, this was something that Black people championed. If your policy fails, then you fix it, you come up with a different. You don't just sit there and actually go, okay, well, they can't do anything right. And then you look at this other party that is basically taking shit away from you right out from
there was conflict over support for that as well. And that, I think you're referring to the crime bill, right?
Yeah, the crime bill. Yep.
Yeah, so they adopted that. That was Clinton. He stole the Republican platform. What was the guy? Newt Gingrich.
Yeah.
Well,
that was Obama did it with Mitt Romney. Obamacare. And that's the thing, and that's what I respect about the Democrats. They say, look, if this is a good policy or plan, we're not afraid of taking it and maybe even making it better. Whereas the Republicans,
who's the typical? Now again, they took that platform, the typical law and order party, up on crime party, is the Republicans. We know that. So, you know, again, like I have a cousin who is sort of he's conservative. He doesn't support Trump. You know, he's conservative, and he was out of work, and he was on what do you call it, workers' insurance or workers'
comp.
Workers' comp. And I'm like, why do you accept that? Because you're against the liberals, the lunatic, all this stuff. This comes from the New Deal. So why do you know, like all these things that we take for granted, like the 40-hour work week, that was a campaign for maybe almost 100 years. The 8-hour workday, that was a campaign. All these were victories that came out of the New Deal, and these
Social Security. Child labor laws, you know what I'm saying?
And guess who championed them before they became championed by the Democratic Party? It was the left, the communists, and the socialists. That they invented the whole 40-hour work week and the 8-hour work day and all the things, no child labor, all the stuff that we take for granted. We think is normal. This is how you do. No, these were political victories from the left that the left that became mainstream, but their origin is with the left. So anyway, when the Democrats adopted that, even then in the 30s, you had Black people going over to the Democrats. And when LBJ said, we shall overcome, I forgot what march was that. I don't know. When he said, we shall overcome on live TV, that was it. That's all Black people, you know what I'm saying? It's like, damn, he's identifying with our struggle.
Yeah, he's identifying with Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
You know, notwithstanding the video that came out, you know, with him talking with J. Edgar Hoover and all this other stuff, you know what I'm saying? Again, these people ain't perfect, but the bottom line is, if they are a better ally than the other guy, why wouldn't you vote for this guy?
Yeah, I don't understand this. I think there's a lot of political immaturity, because again, I don't like the Democrats. I don't mess with the Democrats. But strategically, it does not make sense to not have supported Kamala in the 2024 election. It's just if you wanted to stop Trump, because you recognize Trump to be a threat.
Tariffs.
His
tariff strategy was a terrible strategy. You know what I'm saying? Ronald Reagan laid it out. He got mad when people reposted Ronald Reagan's speech on it. And it's like, dude, this wasn't AI. This wasn't edited. This was established. And, you know, the whole Great Depression and all this other stuff. This was a real connection. I mean, even in Ferris Bueller, they play that clip from Ferris Bueller. You swear it was AI where they were explaining how how tariffs basically led to this bad economic strategy. You know what I'm saying? So that was the one thing. Obviously, she wasn't for that. They were talking about Gaza and stuff like that. I get it. I understand because Israel is an ally. But again, she was also snubbing Netanyahu. They weren't close friends like that. They were talking about the Democrats were talking about the two-state solution in Israel. Republicans weren't. Trump said, you know what? I'm gonna make Jerusalem the capital. He was doing things that were like super hostile to any type of peace between Palestine and Israel. So at the end of the day, you can just go over all of this stuff, supporting science, supporting clean energy, economics, job programs, and obviously they fired a whole bunch of people just to have to fire a whole bunch of more people because they just brought in nepotism. They claimed it was meritocracy, but it was nepotism. You know what I'm saying? Doge was literally firing people, and they were like, "Oh, wait, those are the people that manage the nuclear codes. Oh, we got to bring them back." I mean, it was an absolute clown show. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So and we don't even have to talk about what's going on in Iran to know that I mean the NATO isn't just not doing their part. NATO is like this whole thing is dumb. Why should we be contributing this? All of this is terrible work. You know what I'm saying? So the only people that see anything in this is basically I guess what they call the neocons and like basically the people supporting Netanyahu. I'm not going to say Israel because I know that there's a lot of people in Israel that actually protest their leader, just like there's a lot of people here that protest their leader. But at the end of the day,
my question too is because I was really surprised when people brought up Gaza, especially mimicking MAGA or people who were foot in step with Trump's, with that group with MAGA. I'm like, when did they become concerned about Palestine?
That was crazy. I think it really happened because Trump told them on the, when he said America first, he sold it like, look, we're not going to be trying to police the world. We're not going to be sending our people out there to deal with the world. We're just going to worry about here. That was the thing that he sold. And I think that they religiously bought into that to the extent that it overtook their inherent support for Israel. Because the conservatives, I mean, they were like really supportive of Israel, up until very recent in history. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and a lot of it very religiously so. And I mean, just for it to have flipped like that, it's Israel's PR campaign has been the worst campaign ever over the last like 4 or 5 years. I mean, I'm sure the people would argue a whole lot longer than before then, but they really lost a large contingent of the world and people in America over the last
if
few years.
The people, if they really think this is how they frame or how they look at America first, the United States should just focus on the domestic issues that take place within continental or also I guess including Hawaii, the Samoa Islands or whatever,
Alaska.
Bottom line is everything, and all of that. So
the U.S. territories,
the U.S. colonies, territories. So why are they not against I guess the de-installation or of all the military bases around the world? They should be the first to let's debase. Let's take all the military bases. We got 800 something military bases. Let's get away with it because you're not America first in that sense. If you're constantly sending money, funding,
it's one thing to have to be trying to police other countries, other sovereign nations. It's another thing is to sort of like establish your strength strategically in other places that protect this at home. I'm just playing devil's advocate in my mind. I'm just saying that,
but it doesn't. I mean, United States imperialism. It doesn't work. They're telling you that those bases are there for the defense of the United States. Those bases are 8,000 miles away, 10,000 miles away to defend the United States. No, they're there to defend the United States interests in those areas where they're located. So I don't understand that. Like And
I mean, when it comes to nuclear stuff, there is some strategy there. I mean, there is some strategy as far as nuclear placement. I mean, that's kind of was like the big situation with Cuba. If they were to put Russians put missiles on Cuba,
yeah, but
that's a big advantage.
Yeah. That, and the reason that say Russia did that is because the United States had missiles in Turkey, aimed right at, that was part of the argument. Like you got, and it's kind of like, don't do to us what we do to you.
Gerrymandering. We can do this in Texas and Florida, but all you did is in Virginia and California. That's just wrong.
So this is the United States imperialist footprint. And of course, I'm against U.S. imperialism, but just think about this. If the United States didn't seek to control the Middle East, then it's going to leave the Middle East subject to be controlled by someone else other than the United States, which is going to affect the United States' commercial relationships with the Middle East. So this whole notion of domestic or American first is just flawed. I think it's messed up.
We talked about if you haven't watched this show, if you don't know, we basically said that look, Israel is America's proxy. Their feet on the ground in the Middle East. I mean, you can talk about the let me pull up the picture, who's being the puppet and stuff like that. But the bottom line is Israel strategically and militarily has, that serves some type of interest for the United States as a representation in the Middle East. You may not agree with it. You may not like it. It may be wrong, whatever. I'm just saying that the bottom line is that that's what keeps America from needing boots on the ground from their own soldiers in that area. So there's a reason for this alliance, but at the end of the day, that's not a free pass from right and wrong. That's not a free pass for genocide. That's not a free pass.
No. This is the imperialist, explanation for what's, was taking place in the Middle East. So, like, when did the United States first start funding Israel? They first started funding Israel in 1949. Not even a year after Israel was established. So, you mean to tell me a country that they just ended the war in 48, the war with the Palestinians, the Nakba, less than a year, 10 months old, this country controlled the United States and made them fund them.
But you know what?
Not even a year old.
It's ridiculous, but let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you think that Netanyahu has unworldly sway on Trump?
Yeah, definitely. But
so in a sense, is de facto being controlled by whatever's going on between those two people.
I would say yes and no, because I think that Iran the United States has been at war with Iran since the 50s when they, tried to they did overthrow Mogadishu in 1953. And then after 79, they put sanctions on Iran. So they've constantly been in a war of escalation, de-escalation, temporary peace talks, and what have you. But I think whoever is in power, they kind of control that escalation. But the war has been constant, is what I'm trying to say. The war with Iran has been constant because imperialism has been, they have to control the Middle East. That's what people, the United States, they're I think it's hundreds of billions of dollars in trade with the Middle East every year, annually. So that $3 billion that they give to Israel is a drop in the bucket. That's nothing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's deferring.
Well, you're seeing how that Strait, you're seeing how that Strait of Hormuz, I know I'm pronouncing it terribly, is having such an economic impact. Hormuz is impacting the world. It's just because, again, this is you can say what you want about global, this whole world is a global economy. Yeah. We all are importing, exporting, and interacting, and what happens in one place influences what happens in another place. And it's all connected. So
if I can just kind of going towards the conclusion, just if voters choose what they believe is less harmful, how is that a plantation? If one side insults them while the other side at least, I don't know, courts them.
That's a great term. That's what I want to say. It's the courting. Is that it's like these people are not even trying to court you. They're basically telling you F you. You saw what was playing out with all when the police were like killing people, civilians. You got that dude Philip Castile who's just sitting in the back of a car. You know what I'm saying? Legal, everything. He dies, and all you saw on Fox News was they're talking about just we need to protect the cops. We need to protect the cops, and it's like, yo, the cops are there to protect the serf. We need to be protected from the cops. So one party is saying this, and the other party is like, no, we need to have some accountability. You can't just let them do whatever they want to do to us. You know what I'm saying? You saw how they were acting. White people were talking all of this, respecting the cops until COVID hit. And you saw that they couldn't go to the beach and they lost their fucking mind. You can go to the beach and they lost their mind. We're just talking about living. We're just talking about sleeping in the back of a car. And they're talking about they can go to the beach and they lost their damn mind. It was insane. But I didn't mean to cut you off. But
no, that was. I mean, no, you're adding to it. So our policy preferences explain our voting patterns. So we don't need to use these slave metaphors. I'm saying this Democratic plantation stuff is not an analysis. It's just conservative.
Come with the policy, and Republicans come with the policy. I'll vote for your ass.
If you want the black votes, come with the policies.
If Kasich would have run against Hillary, I'd have voted for Kasich. I thought that dude was like, I thought he, you know what I'm saying? But again, I thought Trump was hilarious. I mean, I watched his primaries and stuff with him. He was charming and funny when he's sitting there talking about how, they have you seated according to how percentage of you're winning. And I know that the Bush that was running, he's like, yeah, you keep moving. Soon you're gonna be off the screen. That's just hilarious. You know what I'm saying? So he did a masterful job. I thought he made great points. And then when he got elected, he just didn't know what to do. He just didn't know he just was overwhelmed.
Trump.
He said it. He said, look, I didn't really, he told, this is what RFK Jr., shout out to Brother Yusef. He sent me this video, which blew my mind. Because I was making an argument that one of the reasons why I really have an issue with Trump is Trump never acknowledges when he makes a mistake. And a person who will never acknowledge their mistake will never grow from it, will never counter and fix it. You'll just keep digging into a mistake and making a bad problem worse.
Narcissists,
and he gave me a video where RFK Jr., he says, when Trump convinced me to side with him, he goes, look, I didn't expect to get elected the first time around. I honestly didn't. And I didn't know what to do. I had to put together a team. I just had to put together a team on the fly, and I would just listen to what people were telling me. I didn't know, but next time I'll do better. You know what I'm saying? But the point was that he was acknowledging that again, this dude made his whole career out of firing people, not hiring people, that don't work at the level of what he's functioning at for this country. You know what I'm saying? And all the MAGA, all the people that are turning against him. You guys are basically seeing the shit that we saw from the very beginning. You know what I'm saying? You guys are coming around to positions that we've been taking from the very beginning. You guys are Johnny come lately to the positions that we were taking. And it's not about Republicans. It's not about Democrats. It's about policy. You're aligning certain of this policy because you see that Trump was never going to be that guy. He is a snake oil salesman. You know what I'm saying? He was always this dude has been relatively completely incompetent except for two things. You know what I'm saying? He has put a lot of money into the military where you think that's good or bad, as far as building them up. But the other thing is he's put a lot of money into himself. This dude started out only making so much money, and through his policies and things that he's done through the course of being a president, he's making a whole lot more money. He's talking about, I'm not going to take my salary for being a president, but I'll use my presidential powers to make sure that my money goes way up. So, it's crazy. So again,
and just for the record, dictators, what I'm saying, the dictators of this 20th century, they all put more money into the military. So I'm not impressed by that.
Like I said, I'm saying that if a person is saying they're going to do something, they do it. That's one of the things he did. Another thing he did is, disassembling DEI and a lot of these things, like he said, He said, I'm doing great on everything white. That came out of his mouth. That's not me. I'm doing great on everything white. Everything is appealing that's working for white people. He's doing great for that. So that's what. Yeah, I know black people are still trying to justify this crap. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
it's just like
MAGA. I mean, 85% of black people don't fuck with them at all. But
yes, as you have pointed out in your go check out your video on social media, Afro-agnostics, that black people are largely, working together in agreement on, they're politically aligned, and not just politically aligned, but honestly politically aligned with their best interests.
Yeah. We're not irrational. We're not blindly following one group over another. That's just why would we be the only group to do that? No other group.
Come with the policy. We're the ones that we are the people. We are the, as you basically said it, we are the dynamite that's basically resulted in the most change in this country. You know what I'm saying? And we've consistently been that. At the end of the day, give us policy. And you know what? Like I said, we don't give a damn about who's wearing blue today or who's wearing. This ain't the blood and the Crips. This is Republicans and Democrats. Give us the policy, you know what I'm saying? And we will go with the policy. We don't care about that. But, one of the things that happened is that the Democrats, it wasn't just that, you had a lot of good policies that basically catered, that, what was the term you said, that wooed, that courted us, courted us. Yeah, that courted us. They also had some policies that didn't fly with us. And really, Trump did a great job on making them the biggest thing. For example, like when he did the commercial with the grown-ass man and like a little girl, a little cheerleader outfit or something like that, or whatever, some little female track team, whatever. The bottom line, he's talking about they want men in sport and female sports and stuff like that. And, as Newsom pointed out, he goes like, damn, she didn't even combat this. Like when they were talking, it's like we don't even be seeing this stuff. It's like we're trying to cater, we're trying to get representation across the board. But this, you got to defend that this is not what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? But she was silent on some of those issues, and because he was loud on certain issues, as John Ireland says of AM, I was about to say 570, it's AM 11. Well, I guess it is AM. The bottom line is, he says that if you don't tell your story, someone else will tell it for you.
Yeah. And, I guess, too, there was an underestimation of right-wing influence on the social media. I mean, they, have a big influence.
Oh, and not to mention the Russians and the bots. I mean, they don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to acknowledge it, but you literally have farms in Africa where these cats is in huts. You know what I'm saying? With internet. And sitting there, just all in all these groups, sitting there talking about Trump, Democrats,
and blah, blah, blah. A lot of, because like Student X, he's just committed to the idea that Ukraine are Nazis.
Yeah.
I mean, but the MAGA is not Nazi, but Ukraine are Nazis, right? That's nothing but Russian propaganda. It's nothing but Russian propaganda. You have more Nazis in Russia than you do. First of all, Nazis are in almost every European country around the world, but somehow they're overrepresented in Ukraine. That's Russian propaganda. That's evidence of Russian propaganda in and itself, right there. So,
and it was found out. It was deterred. You know what I'm saying? Everything. It's just that he was like, well, the Russian gate was a fraud and all this other stuff. It was like, how many of your people were actually convicted for being, just because they didn't have the goods on you? I read the report. I remember my father, I said, Pops, he didn't say that he wasn't guilty. He just said that I see a lot of stuff that suggests there's a lot of smoke here, but these other people are hella guilty. So
the Mueller report, I think that's, it didn't show complicity with Trump, but it was showing that Russia media influenced the outcome of the election. And this is something.
Well, it actually showed that there were various parties in the Trump campaign that were, they identified this is person Y did this. A lot of people under his whatever, they went to jail because of that. I mean, they actually went through, and I'm telling you,
I didn't know that.
I know that black people think it's easy to go to jail. It feels easy to go to jail for us, because we don't have the resources to defend ourselves. Public defenders are not, the cream of the crop. And not to mention, they're all in collusion. They just want to get a conviction and get something out. They can get a plea or a conviction. They get to move on to the next thing. So that's what's going on there. But, getting 12 people to agree on anything is not tough. And that's what has to happen in America. That's one of the things you want to put some respect on. Getting 12 people to agree before unanimous, before you to be found guilty criminally. And that happened to a lot of people under Trump, and he ended up pardoning them after the fact.
Okay,
because that's part of the narrative that he wants to take. Just like he's pardoning the Proud Boys and all this other stuff, like all of this stuff. Bottom line is that it helps his narrative. Just like he's saying this SPLC thing. Now if we prove that these guys are fraud, then it's proof that 2020 was a fraud. We just need to throw those election results out. This is the correlation he made between that in the 2020 election.
That's like when Student was talking to the Anti-Defamation League and this and that, but you haven't really said anything. You're just kind of galloping.
And that was a big, I know he wasn't saying it, but I mean, that was a big Jew thing. That was a big Zionist thing, at least. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Once you brought in the I was like, dude, this is about exposing hate groups. You know what I'm saying? This is what, it's just, yeah. And on the pundits, the people that are whatever, they're saying like this is clearly like a political theater, and that there's so many holes in it. We'll see how it holds up. I mean, that's what these dudes do. They launch these big lawsuits, and then basically they just silently fall apart, and you don't hear nothing about it.
It's interesting that you got 3 different jurisdictions of police involved in the Tyler Robinson case. You have the DNA evidence, you have text evidence, you have all this, right? That's no good. But the DOJ under Kash Patel and the allegations against the SPLC are all correct. Like they don't even have to go to court, really. Just they're guilty.
Just think about it. The irony in this, irony is that all this work that MAGA's doing and Candace Owens and all of this stuff, they can theoretically get the guy that actually killed their guy, the guy that they love. They can literally potentially get this guy off scot-free. Yeah. This guy will get no punishment for doing the horrific thing that they hated the most. That's just the irony of it. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's just crazy. We talk about, I didn't spell check it. I think that's the spelling. If it's wrong, I apologize. But this is the issue here. You know what I'm saying? The Occam's razor. It's just that I understand why you want to ask questions. I understand why you sit there and go, it's okay. I remember, rest in peace, Brick Walls, my best friend in the world. I remember he sent me a video one day. He sent me a flat earth video. This is the first time I ever seriously heard about it. It was like a 9-minute video. I played that video and I literally said, whoa. I literally, for a second, it made me go, damn. There might be some, I objectively had to step back and go, well, there's no way that one thing can be explained for sure. And these other things are I was just he did that. And he goes, okay, now watch this video, which was the counter that video. Then I go, oh, that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is, you know what I'm saying? You got to be open. And I understand. Look, you need to question. It's okay to question it. But when the bullshit gets exposed, you need to be able to call it for what it is. And I'm just telling you, Candace is putting all this work in to defraud and to disparage a real Black woman. And for some reason, Black people are okay with that. To literally call this Black woman a man, you know what I'm saying? And all of this stuff based on, Google sleuthing, the stuff that doesn't even hold up. This person has family members that are alive, the scene and everything. Literally, you can have a blood test. It's just like the Marcone lady or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's just, this is like the one shining time where Trump was, I agree with when he's talking about Candace, not when he's talking about the beauty thing. That was some disrespectful white racist bullshit. But you know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is, again, just because now she's migrated to this position, she don't get a free pass for being the idiot that she was over there. Because quite frankly, she's still being an idiot now about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, she's a conspiracy grifter. She, initially she was a liberal. And then she went over to, she was a big critic of Trump. Then she became a Trump supporter. And then, she became fully invested in MAGA. Then she, TPUSA, and now she's almost in a separate class. She's just a conspiracy grifter. She goes from one thing to the next, whatever can get the eyeballs, the views. This is how she makes her bread and butter. She's not a traditional wife. She's not even though she promotes that, she's out on the grind.
Student Next says, look, can't you just marvel at how successful she is and all this other stuff? And this is a testament to, I don't go, look, this is a testament that she's figured out something that she can exploit to the nth degree. I'm not, first of all, I hesitate. I almost said intelligent. She's a very articulate person. I think she's a very competent arguer, debater. You know what I'm saying? After a fashion, I've seen her destroy people. She is very focused when she's dialed in. You know what I'm saying? But again, I've heard her make some of the dumbest arguments, and it's just like it requires an incredible leap of faith. And if your conclusion requires an incredible leap of faith, you're not making a rational argument. You're just making a religious, emotional, confession.
She's tapped into
juxtaposition, exposition.
Yeah, presupposition, the conservative premises, that already exist, and just putting a black face on it. You become, when she was on the liberal side, she was a small fish in a big pond. You're not going to really get noticed, and but becoming the black face for conservative. Conservatives, you're going to get more notice. You're going to get that,
Oh man, basically she's the Jason Whitlock of political, because Jason Whitlock, it's like I almost feel bad. I almost feel like, hey, Candace, I need to apologize for you just to even reference you, comparing you to that terrible human being. But that's what he is. He's literally the blackface. So white people go, I can't say this, but can you say this for me? This guy. Yeah. I got it. He's every single take is terrible from him. Every single take, and that's marvelous. That's incredible accomplishment. Because like I said, even the clock is right twice a day. A broken clock is right twice a day.
He even got heat for Stephen A. Right? He got heat for just anybody black.
Just think about that. You're so bad. You make Stephen A. look like Malcolm X.
and that's the other thing too. I wanted to. Yeah, that's Paul Mooney had a. You remember that joke?
Yeah, he said he's talking about what's the dancing brother? What's his name?
He did a skit with Chappelle too.
Yeah, what's his name? Yeah, because there's such and stuff. I have to slap a bitch and I can't forget what his name. Yeah. But the bottom line, he's the black dude who sings and dances a lot. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, that sketch is hilarious.
Yeah.
But he said, Paul Mooney said, and he gets like really upset. He said that joke wasn't funny.
I think hold on. Brian Gumble.
No, Brian Gumble. No.
It wasn't Brian Gumble. No. It was. They said, why do white people like him? He was like, because he makes.
He made Brian Gumble look like Malcolm X.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. The manga is so bad, so racist. They make the Democrats look gooder than what they really are. And it's almost like the reverse of what the Black Power movement did for white people and their support of the civil rights.
Wayne Brady.
Wayne Brady. Yeah.
And sadly, the way that I remembered, I kept saying, does such and such have to smack a bit? And then ultimately it came, Wayne Brady. Yeah. But like I said, Wayne Brady, you listen to the interviews, he's really hurt by that. And I'm like, dude, look.
Who was hurt by what?
Wayne Brady.
That was then afterwards.
He wasn't hurt by the Chappelle sketch. He gave into it. It was a great sketch. It was a class. He was hurt by what Paul Mooney said. He said it was hurtful, and he like called him out on it because he goes, "It's one thing to make a funny joke." He said, "But I don't think that was a funny joke." And I'm like, dude, you understand that if a black people see how Brian Gumble acts, and we're gonna treat that differently than the way Corey Holcomb acts. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like you understand the difference. So if you make a joke, if a joke kind of comes out of that, you know what I'm saying? It's not an issue about her. It's like, dude, you are super like whitewashed. Like you're the type of person that no black person would be embarrassed bringing, you know, black women or white woman or whatever to dinner or something like that, just because, you know, he's just that very loving, open, you know, guy. You know what I'm saying? Literally, he's like singing and dancing and stuff like that. And he sings and dances good. You know what I'm saying? So it's just he is a person with great appeal, and he speaks very proper. That's what it is. That's what I wanted to say. So when you see the dude speaks proper as a person that speaks like homeboy from Onyx, you know what I'm saying? He's a grown ass man still talking like that. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, you know, like Fredo Starr, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's just like, you know, I'm just saying that, you know, they're gonna see you that way. You don't have to feel any bad. I mean, I tell my wife all the time, because my wife, she's like, definitely comes from like real like gangster stuff like that. And like you, I come from some like what I call OG Hotep stuff. So I always be like, that's white people shit, that gangbanging stuff. That's white people, that's American stuff. I'm talking about some shit that existed, you know, with us in Africa, like way before that and stuff like that. That's black stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? I get it. But my point is that you still got to acknowledge that, look, when you act and talk like that, we code switch. We know what we're code switching to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, we know about raisins in a potato salad. We know what we're saying there. You know what I'm saying? So it's funny. It was hilarious. You know, it's okay that you're like how you are. Black people are all over the spectrum, and we got people that act like that. You don't got to be hood to be black. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But don't be mad when people make funny when you're Mr. Prim and Proper. You know what I'm saying? That's fair game.
And I think that's why Dave let him on the show, right? That's why they collaborated. That was like a
that was I think it was you know what? That's right. That was a counter. Because you're right. That was, and then he's like, because he even shot him because of the joke about the Paul Mooney. You're right.
Well, I'll have to say that so the MAGA makes the Democratic Party look better than what they really are. Like you almost, because we you know, like, and this is the problem too with when you have the fascist type regime in power. Now you're losing the gains that you already had. You know, before we were trying to advance what we have, but now we've lost what
we've lost so much ground.
Maintain, you know, so
we've lost so much ground.
I think about it almost the inverse of what white people, you know, white people were not very supportive of civil rights initially. It is only with the advent of Black power, he's like, God damn, you know what I'm saying? Let's support the civil rights shit, man, because if we don't, you know what I'm saying? They looking at, I mean, they can see a crossover between the civil rights personality,
and some of them had genuine emotional, moral sort of like, you know,
no, I'm just saying the mainstream support came from
exactly.
They were scared of Black power, so Black power made.
We always talk about the gun laws, gun restrictions. Guns, everything. There was no type of restrictions until them Black people, them Panthers showed up. Then all of a sudden there was all type of gun restrictions.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you know, like Student X says, one of the great things he always says, it ain't no fun when the wabbit has the gun. Yeah. So you know, that's a real thing. You know, when I think about the MAGA is like a sub component of the greater overall Republican component. And a lot of time is that, you know, the other Republicans that are siding with MAGA, they understand them to be strange bedfellows. But you know, the thing about the MAGA movement, to me, they're basically like the Minutemen. Like, remember there was that Minutemen movement like a few presidencies ago where they were clearly hostile to Black people. You know, Black people wouldn't dare, you know, associate with those people and stuff like that. You know, they were whatever. And they basically have been rebranded into the MAGA movement. And
if I'm not mistaken, the Minutemen were paramilitary forces during the so-called American Revolution, the bourgeois revolution.
That's the original ones. I'm talking about the people that were identified.
I know that came after. But the motive was the same. The Minutemen, the primary, you know, the whole. I don't want to get all into it, but you know, after the so-called American Revolution, people think the United States won freedom, or they became free from the British Empire. That's not true at all. You have to go back and look at the 1783 peace treaty. The United States did not exist. Those were 13 separate countries at that time. They were all separate countries. There was no national government. They had their own military, their own taxation, domestic and foreign tax. They had their own thing going on. the justification for a federal government was the need for a military, a federal, national military for what? The savages and the blacks. There was no other imperial competition going on. It was for Native Americans that they called the savage, which that language is in the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution. The Indians are referred to as savages, and then black people. That was what the military force was for, and we all know that the slave patrols, those are voluntary. It was understood as a white man when you became a certain age.
The beginning of the cops.
Yeah, you had
the overseers.
It's how we maintain this if we don't have a policing, especially at night. So from the county level on down in the South, every white man that was, like we would say military age, had to do slave patrols. It was mandatory.
Just think about it. You have these small numbers. They have these big numbers. Physical superiority, athletic, because if they weren't, they wouldn't.
Well, we didn't have the numbers though. In some places,
no, I'm talking about. I'm talking about certain places, but I'm talking about a particular plantation and stuff like that.
Oh,
yeah. No, we didn't have the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when they be like, only so many people were actually slave owners, but the whole system was living off of it and benefiting off it. It wasn't just only.
That argument makes me so. First of all, like. It's kind of hard. Okay, like when we think about slavery, we think about those chains and stuff, right?
Mm.
We think about, slaves had to have. There was a industry of clothes called slave clothes. Guess who produced all that?
Yeah,
the North. the slave whips. They didn't produce whips in the South. The whips were produced in the North. The slave ships. All these are northern industries. So everybody, the entire, I don't know, they try to undermine and say that they try to say that to imply
they were all part of the system, and then they all benefited because sugar. This was this was an empire. You know what I'm saying? This was. I mean, salt was like currency. At one point, you know what I'm saying?
Industry, which is the basis of the basis of industry. The textile industry was based on cotton.
Yeah. Exactly. So no, everybody had a hand in this system that was benefiting whatever that they would put this way. They were benefiting the system way more than our ancestors were.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people, and this is why sometimes I get on Walt and this whole United States is great, such a powerful man. You give any country to this day, right now, give them 250 years of free labor.
Free labor. Oh my goodness.
I guess maybe 1/5 of their population is working for free, and then give them double the size of their land every 30 years. That country is going to be going towards 100 years. That country is going to be toppling all countries on the earth, and that's the United States. That's why the United States is rich.
And just think about it.
Real quick though, the last part: black labor and Indian land. That's it.
Just think about it. Just think about it. It's like they were so dependent on it. So even when they ended slavery, they had to pay reparations to the slave owners, not the slaves.
and that was Lincoln. Lincoln, they did pay reparations to the slave owners.
Owners.
Yeah, the slave owners that
lost their free workers.
Yeah, that voluntarily gave up their slaves. But in Virginia, no, not in Virginia. Was it in DC or Virginia? No, I think in DC, Lincoln did compensate the slave owners. But we should have a bigger discussion on that because it ties into taxation and stuff like that. There was an article that came out about that in Britain, what the British Empire did for the British people to compensate them for the loss of their slaves. It took them 200 something years to pay that off, that compensation and tax money. Because let's talk about that one day. That'll be a good discussion.
We'll put a pin in that. Yeah. So I don't know if there's anything else that you feel needs to be said about this.
Oh no, that's it, man. Just stop repeating that notion. That's MAGA propaganda. It's not a real political analysis. Don't try to blame Black people for their policy preferences, just like any other people.
Give us good policy and we will vote for you. That's it.
Yeah,
Give us policy that serves our interest, that doesn't hurt us. Again, you guys, Republicans be like, no. If we just make you guys have to work for it, then you'll be better off. And nobody's trying to get around not working. No one's trying to get necessarily a handout. People are trying to get representation. DEI was never about hiring people that weren't qualified to do jobs. It's about making sure the people that were qualified to do jobs got the opportunity to have jobs. So, again, it was a lot of boogeymen and false sort of like narratives about what was undermining what was whatever. No, what's been undermining us is the absolute unfair treatment. The generational wealth has been taken away from us. The super head start that the white people had in this country. Again, I always say white people with white privilege. If I'm you, I don't feel bad about having white privilege. In fact, if I have white privilege, I would exploit white privilege. But I would have sensitivity to how that impacts Black people. And if I was moral and gave a damn about it, I'd be concerned about somehow at least leveling the playing field. So that's what really should be the issue, not some issue about meritocracy. This presidency is showing you that meritocracy is not what's determining who gets.
Yeah, I heard the Black MAGA folks or folks who I remember student next to them talking about
exactly. That's what I'm thinking about.
Meritocracy, and I'm like, what?
The dude that was the head of the Navy was just some guy that Trump had appointed in the head of the Navy that he just fired or just whatever. Was just some guy that that gave him a lot of money. He was a donor.
Yeah, the goal of DEI, people don't like under segregation. You had mediocrity because you didn't have to compete. You had a free lane. You couldn't. You didn't have competition from women. You didn't have competition from men, from LGBTQ folks, and all of that. So this whole notion of a meritocracy does not mix with the facts. DEI, all these apparatuses that are used to make sure that things don't just stay white. You know what I'm saying? That's all gets thrown up called DEI, but these are things to reinforce.
What segment was the biggest beneficiary of DEI?
White women, right?
Yeah, it's like, dude, that's one half of your family structure. You guys are so worried about what was going to the Black people. It's just like Black people that I don't want gays to get any type of whatever, that you're just going to ignore all the other things that are being taken away from you by Republicans.
And sometimes I heard Susan and other folks justify that's why it should be eliminated. But like white people benefit from the welfare and WIC more than Black people. But is that
exactly.
You're going to get rid of it?
Exactly.
No, it benefits us too. Yeah. So yeah.
Again, what hurts us.
Anything the hiring teams are going to be more white. The private industry is going to be more white. Is that what you want? That's the outcome of not having these enforcements in place, not having these.
No, and there's no laws. There's no laws against nepotism. So, you had these programs that were in check to monitor what was going on, but nepotism has free reign under that circumstance. So, of course, you're just going to it's going to be the madmen.
It's indistinguishable. It's indistinguishable from racism.
Yeah.
So if you're white, you hire your friends and family. Most white people have friends and family that are white. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway, that's all I have to say. Yeah.
All right. So thank you for watching, and I understand that that a lot of people watch it live. A lot more people will watch it on replay. We appreciate you. Again, any comments, any things that you got to say? It was a bit of a fireworks on Focus Up, But again, we talk about stuff here. We break stuff down here. You don't get to play no games on this show. On this show, we get down to the white meat. So that's what it is. So that having been said, peace out. Thank you very much. That's what's up.